I'm Dr. Matthew F. Kamelski. I direct the Adaptive Brain and Behavior minor at Virginia Tech, and I'm going to share a simple breath awareness practice with you that my students learn about in my integrative health class. This practice is meant to help us get back into our flow zone when we've noticed that feelings of anxiety or restlessness are making it difficult for us to focus, think creatively, or communicate compassionately with other people. I just want to mention that this is a self-care practice for everyday use and not meant to treat serious mental or physical health conditions. You can do this practice seated or lying down. If you are not sleeping well, I recommend doing the practice lying down, but it may lead you to doze off for a short period, so set an alarm. If you are well rested, the practice will generally result in you feeling more relaxed and clear-headed. But results do vary, so as with all self-care techniques, after you try it a few times, if it isn't working for you, try something else. There's no one-size-fits-all for self-care. So let's begin. If you're lying down, make sure that you're completely comfortable. It may be best to do this lying on your back. If you're sitting in a chair, you want to be able to sit up straight. If you have lower back pain and you need to sit back against something, that's all right too. So we're going to look for a gentle length in the spine as if a string were pulling us up from the top of our head. From that string lifting us, we're going to try to relax our body down. And the first practice that we're going to begin with is just a practice to make us aware of our breath and trying to get the breath down into the diaphragm. So the first thing that we're going to do is place one hand on the chest and one hand on the lower abdomen. And we're going to breathe in through the nose if we can. If you're having trouble breathing in through the nose, you can breathe through the mouth. Long and slow, and just see if you can get the breath to sort of sneak past the chest and down into the diaphragm. Take a few breaths at your own pace, making sure to breathe out fully after you breathe in. If you feel the breath moving this hand, see if you can get the breath to sort of sneak past this hand, maybe moving down the back a little more than down the front. Relax the chest and shoulders and see if you can get the diaphragm hand to feel the movement of the breath. Breathing into the diaphragm is really important to getting the stress-relieving effect that we want. How did that go? Were you able to feel the breath moving down into the diaphragm? If so, then I'm going to suggest you try continuing with the next practice. If not, practice just breathing into the diaphragm a bit more. The next practice that I'm going to share with you is called box breathing. When we do box breathing, it's kind of like a box setting up with three sides. One side, the bottom, the other side, and then the top is open. So when we do the box breathing, we're actually going to count the breath to ourselves. I'll count it out loud for you so that you can catch on to how this works. But as we're breathing in, we'll count, and then we're going to hold the breath across the bottom of the box for another count, and then we're going to breathe out for another count. Now, what's the best count for you? Well, that's something you've got to experiment with. So a lot of times people will begin this with like a 4 or 5 second count for each part of the box. But I recommend experimenting with what works for you. So I'm going to start with a 5-second count. If you feel like that's too long, you can shorten it. You don't need to follow my count. You can do it at your own pace, but I'll start with the count so that you understand how it works. So when we do this, you can just place your hands on your lap, on your knees. You don't need to have the hands here and here. So we'll start with the in-breath through the nose, breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then holding that breath, 2, 3, 4, 5, and breathing out long and slow, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we begin again. So with the in-breath, holding, and then the out-breath. Now I want you to figure out what count works for you. As you go through this process, maybe try a 4 count. Breathing in. The same thing as you hold the breath. Breathing out for the same count. Make sure that you get all of the air out of your lungs. Maybe try a 5 count. If extending the count to 5 makes you feel uncomfortable for any reason, maybe like you're not getting enough air, then go with a shorter count. You may want to try a 6 count. Breathing in. Holding it for the same count. And then letting the breath out. I don't recommend doing the practice more than a 6 count, especially if you're new to the practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue this practice, but as you do, I'm going to give you some suggestions for what to feel for as you do the practice. So to really get the maximum effect of the practice, what we want to do is we want to shift our focus from thinking about the things that are bothering us in the moment, maybe the things that led us to sit down and practice, that are making us feel stressed or frustrated. And we want to shift our focus to the feeling of the breath. So the count is there to help us gauge the breath, but we really want to focus on the feeling of the breath coming into our body, the feeling that we have as we hold the breath for a few seconds, and the feeling that we get when we release the breath. So we're trying to shift the focus of our awareness from thinking to feeling. This is where we get the big effect from this practice. So again, long and straight in the spine, but relaxed, body relaxed, and we'll begin breathing in, finding the count that works for you, holding it for that count, and then breathing out long and slow, making sure to get rid of all the air. And then continue using your count. As you breathe in, feel the air coming down and into the diaphragm and filling the diaphragm. And as you hold the breath, just feel what the air is doing in your body. Feel how the oxygen is nurturing your cells, nurturing your tissue. When you breathe out, let go of any tension that's built up in the body. Let go of all that carbon dioxide. Feed the plants in the room. And then begin again with your in-breath. Take in the oxygen. Let it move down into the diaphragm. Hold it and let it do its magic. Then breathe out what you don't need, letting go of any emotional stress or physical tension in the body throughout the entire out-breath. Let's try just a few more. Go at your pace. If your mind wanders off and begins thinking about other things, try to come back to the feeling of the breath in the body. The feeling of the breath moving into the diaphragm, the feeling of the oxygen working its magic in your body, nurturing your tissues, nurturing your cells, and the feeling of letting go of everything that you don't need to hold on to as you breathe out. We'll finish with one more cycle. Great. That was box breathing. So I hope that it helped you feel a little less stressed over the holiday season. I would like to say that this video is here for you to use. You can come to this to practice anytime that you would like, but the practice results will be increased if you can do it on your own. So the best thing to do is to learn to do it and to do it yourself, to do it at your pace, reminding yourself of the things that I talked to you about here. But if you feel uncomfortable doing it on your own, you can come back and use the video. So that's the breath awareness and box breathing practices. If you found it helpful, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.